Hi, and welcome to English-Fabule. Are you learning English? Great. Let's learn English with a very interesting story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Let's get started.
In November of the year 2025, a new big problem started between two countries, Japan and China. This problem began with strong words, but it quickly became very serious for the whole region. Japan's leader, Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi, spoke in her country's parliament on November 7. She talked about Taiwan, which is an island close to both Japan and China. Prime Minister Takaichi said that if China used its army to attack Taiwan, it would be a danger to Japan's own survival and safety. She also made it clear that Japan might then need to use its own army to respond to such a threat, according to Japan's laws for peace and security. This was a new and very strong message from Japan. In the past, Japan usually did not say such clear things about military scenarios involving Taiwan. Her words showed a new and stronger way of thinking for Japan about its defense. China did not like these words at all. They became very angry and responded strongly. Just a few days earlier, on October 31, the leader of China, President Xi Jinping, had met with Prime Minister Takaichi at an important meeting in Peru. At that time, both leaders expressed that they wanted to build a good and stable relationship. But Takaichi's new words in Parliament shattered this apparent progress. China saw her public statements as a big and unacceptable challenge to its interests. Then, on November 8, a Chinese official made the situation even worse and more dangerous. Chen Zhen, a high-ranking Chinese diplomat who works in Osaka, Japan, wrote a threatening message online. He used a social media website called X for his post. His message contained very angry and harsh words. Many people around the world quickly understood it as a direct threat against Prime Minister Takaichi. The post contained a remark that the dirty neck that sticks itself in must be cut off. This was an unprecedented and shocking thing for a senior diplomat to say. The message was later deleted, but screenshots circulated very quickly across social media and news channels all over the world. This public and unprecedented threat from a Chinese diplomat took the situation from a simple political disagreement to a full-blown diplomatic crisis. It truly made things much, much worse between the two powerful countries. This was how a difficult and tense time began. The strong words from Japan's leader about Taiwan, followed by the angry and threatening online post from the Chinese official, clearly marked the start of a major crisis. People started to worry a lot about what would happen next between Japan and China, and what this would mean for stability in Asia. 2. China says stop traveling. Following the strong words from Japan's leader, China took an important step. On November 14, 2025, China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs told its citizens to avoid traveling to Japan. They said this was because of safety worries. The Chinese government explained that the recent statements had made the mood between Chinese and Japanese people much worse. They felt there were now big risks for Chinese people visiting Japan. This message had a fast impact on travel plans. Soon, major Chinese airlines, including Air China, China Eastern, and China Southern, announced changes. They offered full refunds or free date changes for flights to Japan. These offers were good until the end of December. Many people decided to cancel their trips. In just a few days, around 500,000 airplane tickets to Japan were returned. This decision caused big problems for Japan's economy. Japan makes a lot of money from tourism. About 7% of the country's total money, called its gross domestic product or GDP, comes from visitors. A large number of these visitors, around 20 to 27%, usually come from mainland China and Hong Kong. So losing these tourists meant losing much money. The money problems quickly appeared in Japanese markets. On November 15th, shares of many companies started to fall sharply. Shiseido, a well-known beauty company, saw its shares go down by about 12%. Isetan Mitsukoshi, a big department store, lost over 11%. Rohin Keikaku, which owns the Muji stores, also dropped by more than 9%. Japan Airlines lost about 4%, and Fast Retailing, the company behind Uniqlo, went down around 5%. Experts began to count the cost. The Nomura Research Institute, a research group, estimated that Japan could lose about 14.23 billion US dollars in a year if this travel boycott continued. Another expert report from Bloomberg suggested Japan's economy could grow half a percentage point slower in a quarter. Small travel companies felt it the most. One company, East Japan International Travel Service in Tokyo, said its bookings for the rest of the year dropped by 80% very quickly. This sudden drop in business made many Japanese leaders and companies very worried about the future. 3. No more Japanese food. China took another step to show its anger in late November 2025. On November 19, China announced it would stop buying all seafood from Japan. This was a big problem for many Japanese fishermen and companies. China said this ban was because of worries about food safety. They talked about the treated water from the Fukushima nuclear power plant. However, a Chinese official, Mao Ning, later said the ban was because of Japan's political words about Taiwan. She stated that Japanese seafood would have no market in China because of strong public anger. Before this ban, China was a very important customer for Japanese seafood. Over 20% of all seafood Japan sold went to China. In June 2025, China had even started to buy some seafood again after a ban from 2023. Many Japanese seafood businesses, almost 700 of them, had applied to sell their products to China once more. This new full ban stopped all those plans. It meant these businesses would lose a lot of money they expected to earn. The problem was not only with seafood. China also stopped talks about buying Japanese beef. This was a trade that had been stopped for 24 years because of mad cow disease in 2001. Japan and China had signed an agreement in 2019 to restart these beef sales. They hoped to begin selling beef again in 2025. But the new halt in talks meant Japanese farmers and meat companies lost this new chance for business. These bans on seafood and beef added to Japan's growing economic troubles. After China had already stopped its people from traveling to Japan, these food bans created even more difficulties. Many Japanese businesses that sold food products faced big losses. The country's economy felt more pressure as different parts of its trade with China closed down. 4. Japan's economy is hurting.
The problems between China and Japan spread to other areas, including culture. China stopped showing Japanese movies. In mid-November, Chinese film companies announced that many Japanese films planned for late November and December would not be shown. Two well-known examples were Cells at Work and Crayon Shin-chan the movie Super Hot Scorching Kasukabe Dancers, which were taken off cinema schedules. Chinese TV channels reported that film groups chose to delay these releases to respect how audiences felt as relations between the two countries worsened.
Even the animated movie Demon Slayer: Infinity Castle, which was already in cinemas, saw its ticket sales drop after the Japanese Prime Minister's words. Experts quickly started to estimate how much money Japan could lose because of these actions. One big research group, Nomura Research Institute, said that if the bans continued, Japan might lose about 14.23 billion US dollars every year. Another estimate suggested that Japan's total economic growth could slow down by half a percentage point just from fewer tourists. If the number of Chinese visitors dropped by half, like in some past disputes, the impact on Japanese companies would be much greater. Even a smaller drop of 30% could make Japan's economy shrink by 0.1 or 0.2 percentage points. These new problems were particularly difficult because Japan's economy was already struggling. Official numbers released in November showed that Japan's economy had shrunk by 1.8% in the 3 months before October. This was the first time it had gone down in over a year, and it was the worst performance since 2023. The Japanese government had hoped for a small growth this year. The new bans from China made it much harder to achieve even that small growth, putting Japan's economic future at risk. Japanese business leaders grew very concerned. They met with Prime Minister Takeichi to ask her government for help. They strongly urged for talks to resolve the tense situation with China. Yoshinobu Tsutsui, who is the chairman of Japan's biggest business group, Keidanren, clearly stated that having political stability was a basic need for businesses to work well. Many companies felt the economic pain immediately. For example, a travel company in Tokyo reported that its bookings for the rest of the year dropped by 80% right after China told its people not to travel to Japan. This showed how wide and fast the negative effects of the bans were spreading across different parts of Japan's economy. 5. Why Japan spoke up. Japan's leader, Prime Minister Sanaya Takaichi, made a very strong statement in November 2025. She spoke clearly about Taiwan. This was a big change for Japan. For many years, Japan used strategic ambiguity, meaning Japan did not openly say what it would do if a conflict happened with Taiwan. Her words showed a new, stronger view on Japan's defense. There were important reasons for this change.
First, Japan is very worried about its safety. Taiwan is very close to Japan's Okinawa prefecture, only about 100 kilometers away. If Taiwan faced trouble, it would be a big problem for Japan. China's military has grown much stronger. This makes Japan concerned about what could happen. Chinese military exercises near Taiwan and Japanese territory have also increased, making Japan feel less safe. Prime Minister Takaichi's statement was not a sudden idea. She had shown her strong views before. In April 2025, she visited Taiwan and met President Lai Ching-te, talking about defense challenges. This showed her consistent, firm position on Taiwan and China relations. Japan's leaders now believe it is important to be more direct. They feel Japan needs to show its defense plans openly. Some in Japan think the country must state its security positions clearly. This is partly because of questions about how much the United States will help. The incoming Donald Trump administration also makes some in Japan want to be clearer about their own strong defense views. Many experts agree Takaichi's words were not just her personal ideas. They showed a bigger shift in how Japan thinks about its security. The statement reflected a shared view among Japan's defense community. This new approach means Japan is actively preparing and stating its position. Her words show Japan is ready to act to protect its own survival if a conflict around Taiwan threatens its peace. Taking back her words would be very hard for her political standing. She and others in Japan's conservative government prioritize Taiwan's security as key to Japan's own safety. 6. How China is fighting back. China quickly began to fight back against Japan's words. Their plan was clear: use economic power to show their anger. China wanted Japan to understand the serious results of its actions. This strategy aimed to put strong pressure on Japan without using military force. One of China's first steps was to stop its people from traveling to Japan. On November 14, 2025, China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs issued a travel advisory. They said they were worried about Chinese people's safety in Japan. They linked this worry directly to the strong remarks made by Japan's Prime Minister about Taiwan. Because of this advisory, major Chinese airlines quickly offered full refunds for flights to Japan.
This led to a huge number of cancellations, with around 500,000 plane tickets canceled in just a few days. Japanese tourism businesses, which rely a lot on Chinese visitors, immediately felt a big loss of money. Next, China stopped buying food from Japan. On November 19, 2025, China announced a ban on all Japanese seafood imports. The official reason they gave was concerns about food safety, linking it to treated wastewater from the Fukushima nuclear power plant. However, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning also made it clear that the ban was because of political anger. She stated that Japan's Prime Minister's erroneous remarks caused strong public indignation in China. She added that even if Japanese seafood entered China, it would have no market. China also put a stop to talks about resuming Japanese beef exports, which had been on hold for over 20 years. This move showed China's broad use of trade as a weapon. China's actions also reached cultural areas. Chinese film distributors decided to delay showing new Japanese movies that were planned for release. They explained that they did this to respect audience sentiment, as feelings were negative towards Japan. This showed how China used many different areas to put economic and social pressure on Japan. Inside China, the government actively encouraged and used nationalist feelings. Chinese state media often highlighted how angry the public was about Japan's stance on Taiwan. Online, many Chinese citizens showed their strong support for the government's actions. Influential people, like some university professors, even suggested more bans and punishments against Japan.
Some of these suggestions quickly turned into official government policies. This strategy helped the government gain support from its own people while delivering a strong message to Japan. China was clearly using both its economy and the strong feelings of its public as powerful tools in this dispute. 7. A difficult situation. Both Japan and China were now caught in a very difficult situation, like a trap with no easy exit. It was very hard for either leader to change their position without looking weak. Japan's Prime Minister, Sanae Takaichi, could not easily take back her strong words about Taiwan. Her political supporters and many Japanese citizens believed her stance was important for Japan's safety and security. If she gave in to China's pressure, it would be seen as a big political defeat for her at home.
China faced a similar problem. Its leaders had made strong threats and put many economic bans on Japan. If they suddenly stopped these actions, it might seem like they were backing down. This could make them look weak in the eyes of their own people and to other countries. The Chinese government had used strong words and national pride to explain its actions. Stepping back now would challenge their own message and could cause domestic issues. Finding a way out of this trap that allowed both sides to save face was very difficult. Many other countries around the world were watching this crisis with great attention. The United States was one of them. It had already expressed support for Japan's position. The U.S. ambassador to Japan had also clearly criticized the threatening message from a Chinese diplomat. There were discussions in the United States about its commitment to security in the region. With a change in the U.S. government coming soon, people wondered what role the United States would play in helping to resolve such serious international problems. This problem between Japan and China was not just between two nations, it affected the entire world. Both countries are major players in the global economy. China's travel bans and product restrictions hurt Japanese businesses, but they also impacted global trade flows. The crisis showed how interconnected economies are and how quickly political disputes can spread. It highlighted a new way countries sometimes fight, using economic tools instead of military ones. Everyone was concerned about how this tense situation would develop and what it meant for peace and stability around the globe. It was clear that finding a solution would need careful talks and a lot of effort from all sides. 8. What will happen in the future? The crisis between Japan and China has grown big and fast. Now, many people ask what will happen next. This is a final look at the tough situation that has affected so many. There are still many questions without answers. Will China take more steps against Japan? Some people think China could stop more trade, like important rare earth materials. Japan uses these for many products. If China stops them, it would hurt Japanese factories a lot. But China did not do this yet. Perhaps they are waiting to see what Japan does next before making more big changes. What will Japan do? Will it change its strong words about Taiwan? It is very hard for Japan's leader, Sanae Takaichi, to say sorry now.
It would make her look weak at home to her own people. But not changing means Japan's economy could get hurt even more. Japan might also change its defense plans for the future, looking for stronger ways to protect itself.
The problems have deeply changed the relationship between China and Japan. Before, they traded a lot and had many visitors. Now, trust is broken. Will they ever be close partners again, or will this event separate them forever? This crisis makes businesses think seriously about getting supplies from other countries, reducing their reliance on China. This could change global trade for many years. This story shows how quickly politics can damage the economy. Just a few words from a leader caused big problems for tourism, fishing, and movies. Billions of dollars could be lost, hurting many businesses and jobs. Business leaders in Japan know this and want talks to start again, understanding that good politics helps good trade. The world is watching this situation closely. It teaches everyone that peace and open talks are very important. Without them, even small words can lead to big problems for many people and for global stability. This crisis highlights the delicate balance between nations. What do you think? Will Japan and China find a way to talk and solve these problems soon, or will tensions continue to rise?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.